Hey, it's Rich here. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 things I do to help myself fall asleep when I'm sleeping in my vehicle. Before I get started on the 5 tips, I should first say that this video is mostly for people like myself who don't live full time in their vehicle, but only sleep in their vehicle occasionally for like road trips, weekend trips, or maybe out for a couple of weeks sleeping in the vehicle. For people like us, we sleep in a normal bed in an apartment or a house, and it can be difficult to change from that, from sleeping in a normal bed, and then all of a sudden you're trying to sleep in a car or SUV or van or RV. The first couple of nights, especially, can be difficult to get used to it. It's a big change, especially for me. I do a lot of weekend road trips, so I'm living at my apartment in a normal bed during the week, and then Friday afternoon I take off and I'm driving, and then I need to sleep in my car Friday night. So it's a big change, and it's hard to make that adjustment to sleeping in the vehicle. So the tips I have are for that type of situation. So number one on my list, and which is really most important for me personally to help myself fall asleep, is the parking location, where I park. That's important because if I'm sort of worried that I'm not going to be able to park in a particular place all night and somebody may knock on my window at 2 a.m., and if I think that's a possibility, then it's hard for me to fall asleep. It's just if I'm a little bit nervous, that's kind of on my mind, and I'm really not going to be able to fall asleep very easily, given everything else with the change from an apartment to the car. That's like one thing that if I think, my God, I may have to move the car, or find another place in the middle of the night. Well, that's just going to be weighing on my mind. So that's really important to me. And then along with that is safety. If I'm in an area that I don't feel comfortable, that is really safe and gonna be safe for the entire night, then again, it's kind of on my mind, and it's just hard to fall asleep. Along with sort of the safety aspect, one thing I do is I keep my car keys right next to where I'm sleeping. With they have that panic alarm on there. So I just have that right next to my bed. I mean, if somebody's like trying to break into the car or something, then I'll just hit that panic button. The second tip I have involves dinner and when and what to eat for dinner. When I'm sleeping in my car, I like to eat dinner as late as possible, and basically it's one of the last things I do before I try to go to sleep, which I guess I tend to do anyway. Even when I'm living in an apartment, I tend to eat dinner late in the evening. I do that because eating dinner does make me tired, and I just save it and then go to bed after I eat. I don't think that's the healthy thing to do. I've always heard, you don't want to eat right before you go to bed. And I don't always do that every day. I'm usually up a little longer. But when I'm sleeping in my car, I do try to just eat and then go to sleep. It does help. So that's the timing of eating. I try to have it be the last thing. And that also helps. Another thing I like to do, I sort of combine dinner with, when I'm parked somewhere, I like to just sit there for a while and sort of check out the area and just make sure I feel good about parking there overnight. And so I just like to sit there with the car off and all the lights off, and I'm just sitting there in my driver's seat, and I'm just kind of checking things out about who's coming and going and whether I feel good about staying there. And so that's a good time to just also eat dinner. And so that's what I do. The other thing is that the food that you eat for that dinner, I try to pick something that I know makes me tired. For example, like some foods just make me tired, like thick crust pizza I'm always tired after I eat thick crust pizza, or like pasta or anything with a lot of bread or something tends to make me tired. I've also tried drinking milk before I go to sleep. That makes me tired. Another thing that makes me tired which works really well with sleeping in the car, is Sugary foods make me tired. I know a lot of people say, oh, eating a bunch of sugary foods will keep you wired. And I think it does like a little bit initially, but pretty quickly for me, I get drowsy, which I think if you Google it, that's really what happens with sugary foods. So, and I do have a sweet tooth. So I sort of look at it as like a lot of junk food like that tends to make me tired. And so I sort of look at it like, that's my junk food night. I sort of think about it during the week. Like I said, I tend to go out of town on Friday. I leave town and I drive. And then Friday night, I'm on just a weekend trip. And Friday nights, I'm going to be the first night sleeping in the car. And so I sort of plan for it during the week. I typically eat actually very healthy food. I eat a lot of salads and stuff normally. But, we all have those junk food nights where we just kind of go for it and eat what we want. And so I try to save that night where I'm going to eat a lot of junk food or, whatever I want or something sweet or something like, heavy pizza or something. I sort of save it for that first night I'm in my car sleeping. The other thing, I tend to like to stay at truck stops. And so certainly the truck stop store, it's open late and they've got plenty of, sugary junk food in there to eat. So and then that's also easy to just eat in the car. So that's what I like to do with food. One thing I do not do is I don't drink any alcohol or take any like sleeping type A pills or anything like that, because you never know if you're going to have to get up in the middle of the night and move the car. The third tip I have on my list is basically to prepare for sleeping in your car the week before you leave, and especially the night before. I sort of already hinted at this when I was talking about food, that I have in my mind I'm leaving Friday, and so I save that for my junk food night. And so with this tip number 3, what I mean by prepare is, especially if you're leaving Friday, especially Thursday night, don't sleep too much. Maybe sleep 1 hour less Thursday night than what you normally would. I mean, I do that. I Thursday, and I'm usually like packing too, getting ready to go, and I make it a point to sleep at least an hour less that night. I force myself on Friday to get up maybe an hour earlier than I normally would, just so I make sure I'm going to be tired Friday night with my first night in the car. Now, I'm usually also driving a lot on Friday, and so I want to make sure I have enough sleep so that I'm okay to drive and I'm not too tired driving. So for me, I typically sleep between 7 and 8 hours normally, and so that Thursday night, the night before I'm going to go on the road and sleep in my car, I try to sleep like 6 to 7 hours. So it's still enough. I mean, I can function just fine on that. But then by the end of the day, I am a little more tired than I would be had I slept a full 7 or 8 hours. And along with that, I also, sometimes during a day or something, I'll take a nap. And so I try to avoid that on Friday just to make sure I'm doing what I can do to make sure I'm going to be tired enough to fall asleep that first night in the car. The fourth tip I have involves solutions for outside noise and sounds that, if you're in your car and you're not in a quiet area, it might be noisy. Like I said, I like to stay at truck stops, and so that's one of the problems with truck stops is they tend to be noisy with trucks coming and going. I'm okay with that as long as I can create some white noise inside my car. So what I try to do is have something that creates white noise, like a constant background noise inside my car, to try to drown out the noise outside. And I actually do this normally all the time when I sleep, even in my apartment. I like to have a fan noise going, and I've just always been that way. So it works really well when I'm in my car because it also drowns out some of the background noise. And so there's a couple different ways I've tried to do that. One is just, real fans. I have actually 2 fans I use in my vehicle when I'm sleeping in it, 2 little fans. So I have 2 of them going, and I usually put them on high, and so I've got real fan noise, and actually that's been pretty good, and that's really the main thing I do is rely on those fans. But I've also tried smartphone apps that create fan noise. That's actually actually what I do at home. I just have it on my smartphone, a fan noise app on my phone, and I use that every night normally. I have used it in my car, but not as much because I actually have real fans in my car. I've also tried ocean sounds on a smartphone app, so any of that I really rely heavily on, and I keep it up pretty loud. I like it as long as it's a constant noise. I've tried it both with earbuds and without earbuds. I typically do it without the earbuds. I just have it going inside my car, and I don't wear anything on my ears. But I have tried it with earbuds. The disadvantage of that is if somebody does end up knocking on your window, you may not hear it if you've got earbuds in your ears, and so that's why I guess I prefer not to do that. If somebody's going to start knocking on my window, I want to know as soon as possible. The other thing I have tried are actual ear plugs, which I don't do a lot. I don't think I would normally use earplugs. The fifth and final tip that I have involves, of course, window coverings. I've got mixed feelings on window coverings. Of course, I want to have some window covering because, as I said, I tend to like to sleep at truck stops, so the lot's all lit up, which is good because I feel safe there, but it's bad because I want the car to be dark so I can go to sleep. So obviously window coverings are really great for that. I've seen people that make really great window coverings that just block out everything. They completely close the window. I'm not sure I would like that. I made a video a while ago where I mentioned my window coverings that I currently have are pretty lame, actually, and I started trying to make them, and it's really a time-consuming process to measure all the windows and get them to fit really well. And I really didn't finish it for that trip I was on, and so I had a couple that just were basically just cardboard. I really didn't fit the window and had a big gap that didn't cover the whole window. And I actually liked that because it blocked out a lot of the light, but I like to be able to see out. I'm not sure I would like to be in that car with the windows just completely blacked out because I like to know what's going on. If I hear something strange, I want to be able to look out. Now, I know some people have like peepholes in their covers, which is, I guess, what I would do. And I've seen other people where they have, maybe it's more than a peephole, it's a smaller part of the window covering that they can quickly take off and look out. So I would definitely want to do something like that. I really do need some new window coverings. I've been dreading making them because, like I said, I did start to make them, and it really was time consuming. I just found out just this week, I didn't realize that WeatherTech, actually you can buy a whole set of window covers for your specific car. And so I started looking into that. I'm looking at those now because I've got a trip coming up and I'm going to need some good window covers. If anybody has the WeatherTech window covers and has any comments on that, please leave a comment below. Another thing I've thought about trying, and I'm curious if anybody out there has tried just an eye mask and not doing the window coverings and just wearing an eye mask. Anyway, those are the 5 things I do to try to help myself fall asleep when I'm sleeping in my car. Please leave some comments below and share what you do to help fall asleep. And so that wraps it up for this video. If you enjoyed it or found the information helpful, please press the like button. And if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.